Hello again, YouTubers. Welcome back to the Board Game Captain. I'm the Board Game Captain.
And I'm Lynn.
And today we are doing a classic game review for the game Surakarta. Now, Lynn bought me this nice handmade copy of Surakarta as one of my holiday gifts this year. And I tried to do some research on it. Now, Lynn knows I love to collect classic games, especially ones that I've never played before, and I'd never heard of this one. But there seems to be a bit of contention online about the origins of this game. So when Lynn got it for me, she had read one of the stories behind it, which was that it is a classic game from Indonesia. Specifically the island of Java, right?
I believe so,
yeah. The island of Java. So I was like, oh, wow, this is interesting. A classic game from Indonesia. I don't own any classic games from Indonesia. But I wanted to find out how old it was, so I tried to do some more research, and that's where things got a bit fuzzy. So it was originally published in the 1970s in Europe, the first time it was published for widespread sale, and they claimed it was a classic game from Indonesia, but I could find no specific claims as to actually how old it was. And a lot of people more recently have said that the claim that it was a classic game from Indonesia was a bit of a marketing ploy, and that actually it was invented by the guy who supposedly discovered it in Indonesia, because apparently nobody in Indonesia has ever heard of this game. At least some other people claim. So we're not really sure, but the game is at least as old as the 1970s, which means it's old enough to be a classic, even if it was invented by that guy who supposedly discovered it. So there's a little bit of background on the two possible backgrounds of this game. Now, the game itself comes with this very odd-looking board, which if you've ever seen, you've probably been like, what is that? What's with all the loops? Which I had actually seen the board before, but didn't know what it was for until you bought me this one. Where did you get this one from?
Etsy.
And it was shipped from...
It was shipped from Spain.
From Spain.
They it's made to order. It took like a week and a half before it shipped, because after you order it, they make it by hand, basically.
Which is very cool. And this is actually I love games. I'm gonna actually hang this one on the wall, so it'll be dual purpose as a board game and a piece of art, because it looks so nice. So now in the back of this, it comes with a little compartment with this slide door here, where it holds all of the pieces. Now the pieces are little discs that are either black or white. So all of the components are the board and the pieces, and then this comes with a little rule sheet. Now the rule sheet, though there's some minor translation issues, it's fairly well to understand from the way they sent it.
The store that I got it from, you could specify English or Spanish rules, so I'm sure the Spanish rules, them being in Spain, were probably a lot better.
Yeah, well, the rules are okay. They're okay to understand from this seller. I don't want to bash them for it, because it actually did a fairly well job, especially if English wasn't their first language. But they did one curious thing, which is probably a translation issue. Rather than say straight or orthogonal anywhere in the rules, they always write "as the crow flies," which took me a minute to figure out what they meant by that. But the rules are fairly simple, as you can see. It's really just a little more than a page are the rules for this game, and we're going to take you to the table. I'm going to tell you how you play the game. I'm going to run you through a few turns of Surakarta so you can see how to play this game, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about how this game plays, how it feels, and we're going to rate it and review it. Okay, so here we can see a game of Surakarta set up. Each player places their pieces on their two rows closest to their side of the table. And then that's all you have to do, and you're ready to begin. Now, on your turn, you can move one piece. When moving a piece, your piece can move one space in any direction. That is forward, backward, to the left, or to the right, or diagonal. So from here, for instance, I could move diagonally to there, or if I'm already there, I could move diagonally to there. Now, when moving a single space, you may not capture. On the other hand, the other type of move you are allowed to do is a capturing move. Now, to do a capturing move, you must move through at least one of the loops and you're allowed to move any number of unimpeded spaces, that means spaces that are not occupied by any other pieces, to reach a loop, go through the loop, and then coming out, also going through any number of unblocked spaces until you hit a space occupied by an opponent's piece. You can go through multiple loops in this way, but you can only do it to capture, so you have to run into one of your opponent's pieces and not one of your own eventually while going through the loops. And then if you hit that piece, you take it and take its space. And those are the two methods that you can use to move in Surakarta. So now we're going to run through some turns and show you how the game works. So I'll start us off. I'm going to move right there diagonally, and now it is Lynn's turn. Okay, I'm going to move there. Okay. So now, as you can see, you can't really capture till somebody moves into their opponent's side of the board. So we're both moving a little timidly at the moment, not wanting to lose our piece to the very first capture. So now it is Lynn's turn. Okay, so now I can go through this loop here and capture Lynn's piece there. And now Lynn was able to capture my piece there. And in this manner, you move back and forth and eventually try to capture all or most of your opponent's pieces. Now, that is how you play a game of Surakarta. Now, larger moves are available. For instance, if I were to foolishly move this piece out of the way, Lynn could do, why don't you show the big capture move you could do right there, with this piece here going all the way through my side of the board to capture one of my pieces there. And, you know, if you have available even, let's say this was not here. For instance, if this piece were not here, Lynn could move through from here. Let's see if the pieces were in this situation. She could move her piece through two loops to come in and capture a piece there. You can move through any number of loops when capturing a piece. And that's how the game plays. So now we're going to head back to the table and we're going to talk about how it feels, and we're going to review it and rate it. Okay, welcome back. So that was how you play a game of Surakarta. So Lynn reminded me that we should mention where she got this, and we'll put a link to their Etsy store in the description.
Yeah.
The description down below. I want you to show the Etsy store name to them.
I'm not sure how to pronounce it. There's an X in it, and usually there's not X's in Spain Spanish, so I don't know. But it's like
Buxiana, maybe?
Buxiana.
Buxiana. I think Buxiana was probably a good.
I don't know.
Yes. But that's we'll put a link to the Etsy store in case you want to buy a Surakarta board like this, or they do quite a few other.
Yes, they do all the other 2-player abstract.
I think they have Nine Men's Morris and Tabloot.
Yeah, they have Tafelnaffel. I mean, just playing checkers and chess too. They do.
So lots of classic 2-player abstract strategy games. So now, all right, the first thing I got to talk about with this game is there is a problem with it. And this is a problem that I've researched online, and when thinking about it, okay, now this has not been a problem for us because we play the game for fun and we're not being uber competitive. But as soon as you're playing with someone competitively, especially if you were in a tournament setting, there is a problem with this game, which is that there is no way to capture anything in the beginning, and because of how the pieces start in the first 2 rows of either side of the board, and you can move up 1 row and still nobody be able to capture anything, there's no, and because you can move backwards, you can just sort of move back and forth. You can move up And then the other person moves up, and then you move to the left, and they move to the right, and then you move back to the right, and they move back to the left, and then you keep moving all the way down the row because you're both afraid of losing the first piece in a capture. You can do this all day, and it just be a total stalemate, nobody having captured anything. And there are some extra rules that they suggest using for if people do the same moves 3 times in a row. But the problem is there's 2 situations where if doing 3 times in a row would cause you to stop and see who had captured the most pieces. One is if you did this in the beginning and both of you were too afraid to allow the opponent to capture a piece, first off, going all the way down the row wouldn't do the same move 3 times in a row. And second off, neither of you would have captured anything. Mm-hmm. And then the other one is later on in the game, these squares on the corners here are sort of like safe places.
Well, it's specifically this, you can't capture a piece in that spot.
Yeah, and there needs to be a point where you gotta like force them to come out. So that there's a couple of little minor issues with that. Now, when playing for fun, as long as you and your opponent don't do that, which we generally kind of consider that bad form when we're playing, so we don't do that. But if you're playing it in a tournament, you might want to put a house rule in to avoid that. And I have a suggestion for you for a house rule if you were to run a tournament of Surakarta or playing in another very competitive type atmosphere, which is that when moving other than to capture, when just doing the one space move, you should restrict it that you can only move to one of the 3 spaces that are closer to your opponent. So either orthogonally straight forward or diagonally forward. And this rule would force you to eventually come to your opponent's side of the board where they could then slide around and capture you. So there's no way you would be able to just dance around on your side of the board all day. Now that is not one of the normal rules of the game, but I think it would avoid the problems that a lot of people complain about online. What are your thoughts on that?
I've never had that problem.
Well, because we don't do that, but we don't play uber competitively.
I don't know. I mean, I don't like... The rules say you can move backwards, and sometimes I do like to move backwards, so I don't like it, but I also don't have a problem that everyone else seems to have, so
Well, it's because I don't do that to you. But what if I was an uber competitive player and I didn't want to... which we just play this game for fun and we play it quickly and fun. But if I was just dancing around on my side of the board and refusing to come to your side of the board, I'm sure that would frustrate you.
Couldn't I go to your side of the board?
Yeah, but then you'd be giving up the first capture, and that's the point. If 2 people, that's why I just suggest this. If you're having that problem, if you're trying to play it competitively. That being said, the normal way you play the game can have that problem, but if you're not playing very competitively, it may not be a problem. The method of capture is a little... I
still don't really think it's a problem, because I don't need to go... If you're here, if you're just bouncing back and forth, I can go through my loop first to capture you.
But you would have to clear the space on your side of the loop, at which point I can slide through your loop before you can, and I'd still get the first capture on you. Mm. That's where it comes into, is that basically giving up that all-important first capture. And it is a fairly important move to get the first capture, as it is with most... complete information abstract strategy games like this. It is very important because you have a leg up. That's why almost every complete information abstract strategy game, there's usually a benefit to being the player to go first. You usually have the odds in your favor because you will usually get the first capture. And that is also something that is definitely present in this game. Now, one of the interesting things about this game, for me at least, is trying to see the crazy combinations of going through all the loops, especially later in the game when you start going through like 3 loops just to capture a piece, and sometimes you didn't see it, and then your opponent saw it, and they went through 3 loops to capture your piece. And going through the loops is fun. I mean, it's very visually appealing, and I do enjoy doing that. But I mean, this is a very strange method of capture, though. It has a bizarre list of arbitrary rules, like you have to have an unimpeded road to a loop, and then you have to go through the loop and run into an opponent's piece before you can capture it. It's much more involved than, say, just moving into their space like you do with chess, or jumping over a piece like with checkers, or making 3 in a row like with Nine Men's Morris. This is a bizarre, arbitrary set of rules for how you capture. What are your thoughts on the method of capture? It is pretty unique.
I think according to Board Game Geek, it is unique, isn't it? They said that there's no other game that
has this method of capture.
I think it's fun. I like it.
You enjoy the going through all the loops. It does feel fun. And now, so here's the thing. All right.
And I mean, if that dude in the 70s did just make this up, at least it kind of almost, it feels like it could be an ancient Indonesian game, because Snakes and Ladders is from
India.
the same area, and like they do the swirlies too.
Okay.
You know, so it kind of feels like
it could be a South Asian game.
Yeah, like I don't know if that area of the world just likes, you know, making pieces go loop to loop.
And again, we don't know if he just made it up or if he actually discovered it and maybe it was just a lesser known game. I don't know.
He did a good job if he just made it up.
Okay. So now, all right. The game does have problems. Like I said, there's far too much of an ability for people when playing too defensively on both sides, where it can be really easy to have a stalemate, and that is a problem. But when not playing super competitively, when just playing for fun, this game is fun. I mean, I enjoyed this game. We usually play this game multiple times in a row. How do you feel about it?
I like it. I still don't see that problem, though. I mean, I am competitive, and I don't do that. I don't dance around like that.
But that's not. It's also because you're more aggressive in your play, and you usually come lunging right to the other side of the board. But I'm talking about if people were being competitive and also being defensive.
Oh, those people.
Yes, those people, and they were not lunging towards the other side of the board.
They shouldn't be playing games like this, then. I mean, if you're not gonna go for your opponent and try and, I mean, sometimes you gotta sacrifice pieces to win.
That is true, and setting up sacrifices is usually a very important part of most abstract strategy games, and it is in here. So, well, how many stars are you going to rate this?
I don't. Maybe like 7.
7 stars?
Yeah.
So you enjoyed and you'd play it anytime I asked.
Yeah.
So I'm a little lower than you on this. I like this game a lot. I enjoy it when we play it. But this is not the kind of game I would play anytime. I think I have to be in the mood for it. So I'm going to give it 6 out of 10 stars. I do still enjoy it. I think it's a fun game. But and when I play it with you, actually, I enjoy it more than I would with most games I would rate a 6. It's just that I think with those problems, that makes it so that there's some people I wouldn't play this with. Because if I played it with someone who did that dancing around thing, I would just never want to play it with them again. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that means that I would only play this game with certain people. So there you have it. I do recommend trying this game if you never have. It's a very interesting set of rules, and it's a very interesting game. And if you have not tried Surakarta, it's definitely worth trying. But you do have to have the right opponent to play it with, someone who doesn't want to abuse those loopholes in the rules, essentially, is what it comes down to.
Is that a pun?
No, I didn't actually intend that. The loophole, you mean? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. But you know what? And that's the thing is, moving through the loopholes is the loops is the coolest part of this game. So as you can see these pieces here that I have on these locations, from here I can go and capture that piece. Now, a couple of notes, and these are just some tips for you strategy-wise when you're playing Surakarta, things that we've figured out. 1, those spaces that are both on the green lines and the red lines, oh my God, are those key, because you can go through any of the loops from those spaces as long as you have a clear line. So holding the spaces that intersect between the red and the green lines, very important. Another one is when moving forward, do not, under any circumstances, when moving into your second line, set yourself up with 2 pieces in that third line, moving from the second to the third line, set up with 2 pieces with a gap in between them, because that invites someone to move to your side of the board like that, and you can't capture them because you've cut off your routes that you could have used to capture them. And then if you move one of your pieces out of the way, they're going to swoop around to your back side of the board and capture one of your pieces. Anything else you would like to add about Surakarta?
I don't think so.
So there you have it. That is Surakarta. Now that is 7 stars from Lynn, 6 stars from me. This is a 1.5 thumbs up review from us here at the Board Game Captain, but we do like this game and we recommend it to you if you are a fan of classic abstract strategy games. So have you played Surakarta? Do you enjoy it quite a bit? Have you had problems with people who play super defensively and refuse to leave their side of the board? Feel free to comment down below. And if you enjoyed this video and you would like to see us do more review and tutorial videos like this, or more classic game review videos like this, be sure to give this video a like, share this video, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Board Game Captain. That's Captain spelt with a K on YouTube. And hit that little bell icon on my channel so you get notifications every time I upload a new video. And until next time, game on.